Hi everyone, it's Barrie, and I'm excited to be with you today to talk about rekindling your spark for practice, how to traverse the plateaus in your yoga practice, what to do when your practice feels dry or uninspired, or you're feeling complacent about yoga and you're kind of not sure what's next for you. I want to talk to you about how to weather these periods, and not only weather them, but actually emerge more inspired and dedicated to yoga than ever. So we are also celebrating the halfway point of our 90-day online program. So we're 45 days in, and it's been incredible actually to be engaged with you all in this way. So we're celebrating the halfway point by talking about how to get through the plateaus. And I really wanted to talk about this topic because, you know, it's something that is so common. I mean, we've all been there. And I think we may not realize just how common it is after you've been doing yoga for a while to start to feel bored and uninspired and feel like you're wondering what's next for me. Is there anything more for me on the path? I'm going to talk about exactly why this happens and the reason for it, because there's a really good reason for it that I'll get to when we talk about the 6 steps to traversing the plateaus. So in this call today, I'm going to tell you exactly how to deal with the plateaus for your practice and emerge even more committed to your practice and your teaching if you're a teacher than before you went through the plateau. Many of us in this program have been doing yoga for a long time, decades even. And so we know that there are different landscapes, different seasons in our practice. And I kind of liken this to a road trip. As some of you know, my family's in New York. And so we're traveling from Quebec down to New York several times a year. So we've done that a lot. And, you know, on the road, it's about an 8-hour trip because my family's on Long Island, actually east of New York. Hi, Carrie. You know Long Island well. Hi, Danette. So on our trip down to New York, as you know, if you've done that road, you go down the New York State Thruway, basically from top to bottom. And you start out by going through the Adirondack Mountains, which are gorgeous. And, you know, as long as you're not caught in a snowstorm, it's a really, really beautiful, peaceful drive. And then as you get closer, you go through Albany, which is, you know, iffy. And then it gets nice again. You get in the Catskills. But then as you get closer to the New York metropolitan area, that's when you start getting the traffic, the just high volume of cars, construction, and the landscape changes, right? And, you know, if we consider yoga as a path that we travel over time, we have to acknowledge that it's really the same as a road trip. There will be many changes of scenery along the way. There will be expansive, breathtaking landscapes, and there will also be boring stretches of like nothingness. There will be obstacles that seem to block our progress or take us on a detour that we didn't expect. And I think the first thing is we need to understand that all this is normal and actually important if we're going to be approaching yoga as a practice for a lifetime. So sometimes the plateau shows up as just feeling bored, kind of blah about your practice. Sometimes it shows up as an injury or a health problem that you wish you didn't have to deal with and you just feel like giving up on your practice. Or sometimes it shows up as a life situation that takes you away from regular practice. You start to feel further away from your practice and you feel demoralized because of that. Or you just start to feel complacent, like you just don't really care that much. So part of the skill that we develop as we mature in practice is how to traverse these different landscapes and keep going, because we all know that yoga is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We want longevity as practitioners. We want longevity if we're teachers. And I believe we can definitely have that. And over the 25 years that I've been practicing, I certainly know this well. I've gone through so many seasons and landscapes in my practice. And so we are here for the duration, right? We believe in yoga. We know it works. We know it's our path. And so in order to keep going, we need to find tools to re-up our commitment and manage and even maybe welcome the plateaus. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about, because plateaus, times when you feel disempowered or you're not interested in your practice, if we can get through them, they help us develop tenacity, fortitude, perseverance that serves us in all areas of life. All right, so we do it, and we do it not only for ourselves, but because it helps us everywhere. Everywhere we can show up with more resilience. Yes, we believe yoga's power, so we know that it is a practice for a lifetime, and we've seen it work in others. We've seen, the most inspiring teachers we know probably are the ones who have kept going, and believe me, they have dealt with this issue of plateau. So I'm going to share with you 6 steps to going through these plateaus, and I think they will greatly help you to first put into perspective what a plateau is, second, see the opportunity in it, and then third, learn how to respond to it. Okay, so 6 steps for rekindling the spark in your practice. Number 1, first of all, accept that the plateau is a natural and even expected part of your yoga journey. So usually, most of us are here because we've experienced the transformative power of the practice, right? There are highs, there are bursts of transformation and breakthroughs. And sometimes this happens very quickly at the beginning, right? Yoga is powerful. It doesn't take long for us to feel the effects in our lives. So we get this initial burst of transformation, and then we kind of expect it to continue. And it doesn't usually continue at such a dramatic rate as the initial shift that we might have experienced. And that's one reason that motivation wanes, yoga starts to feel boring, practice becomes a chore rather than something we look forward to, and we just feel like nothing's happening and like yoga's not even helping us anymore. So the first step is to recognize that when we feel that happening, it is a natural and even healthy part of our journey, because in yoga, we are meant to continually evolve and open the door to new levels of understanding. So times when we feel stuck or that we've used up the benefits of practice are not only important, but they're also necessary if we're going to go to a deeper level of our evolution as practitioners and as people, right? So the first step is to just accept that the plateau is not a natural, even a healthy part of your yoga practice. Second, recognize the possibility in the plateau. So I want you to start to see the plateau period as not an endpoint, but as a threshold. It is right here now in Quebec, it's almost spring, it's not quite spring. I'm hoping that May showers will bring June flowers at this point. So the fields around my house are, they're bare, they're barren. And there are periods when our practice is like that. We have to recognize that it is a time when we are getting ready to be cultivated again, right? Spring hasn't quite bloomed yet, but we know it's right around the corner here. Nature is about to kind of burst forth. So we can approach a plateau in exactly the same way. And here's the thing about the possibility of the plateau, is that as we evolve in yoga, we're actually meant to go to more subtle and deeper levels of expansion. So as we view the plateau in this way as a possibility, we know that we're not going to stay where we are because yoga is dynamic. However, the shifts might get more nuanced. They might get more subtle as we're able to penetrate deeper. And this is like a great invitation, isn't it? It's exciting. It's thrilling to think, what is next for me, right? I'm feeling that the field is getting ready to be cultivated once again in a new, expansive way, right? There's maybe a new breathtaking landscape just around the corner, right? So we have to start to recognize the possibility in the plateau and see it really as a threshold to a deeper level of insight, a deeper level of joy, a deeper level of self-love. and trust that there is always more for us. So we want to trust in the possibility of the plateau as a moment of potency, right? So, so that's the second step. Recognize that the possibility in the plateau as a threshold for going to a deeper level of perhaps more internal expansion, more refined expansion, more deep-seated, nuanced shift that is we're getting ready for. And that, I'm not just saying that, that it has actually been my experience over and over again. So there is we want to see the possibility in the plateau. Okay, number 3, step 3 is to then, after you've accepted and opened to the possibility of the plateau as a threshold that you're going to move through, it's really helpful to then refresh your highest intentions for the practice. Go back to asking yourself, why do you do yoga? Like, what for? What's your ultimate goal? And really refresh that and keep it present. And you can do this in a lot of different ways, through journaling, through just thinking about it. You know, what would your life be like? What would your teaching be like if your practice was vibrant and completely fulfilling? Like, what would that look like? And you can journal about that. So casting your highest vision for your practice. And then also reflecting back on your journey. That's one thing we did in this program that many of you shared from me was really powerful, to tell your story again. Remember why you came to yoga, how you've already been transformed by this practice. And that is very empowering, because you get to see where you've come, and you may even have already gone through several plateaus in your practice. So you see how the truth of what I'm saying, that there's something waiting for us on the other side that's more expansive and thrilling, maybe, that we could even imagine right now from where we are, right? The fallow field doesn't know that in a couple weeks it's going to be bursting forth with wildflowers, right? It's just muddy right now. So looking back, seeing where we've come from can be very empowering, and to recognize the gifts that yoga has already brought you and the perseverance that you've already brought to it. So refresh your highest intention for the practice, step 3. Step 4 is then to start asking questions, right? And as you know, those of you who work with me, I love questions. I love delving deeper into juicy questions. So asking questions like, what's next for me? What am I drawn to? What's interesting and alive for me right now, right? Maybe it's a different practice. Maybe it's a different teacher. Maybe it's a different form of study. And to really sit in silence, get quiet, and ask your own deepest wisdom, what's the next level of unfolding for me? And I think when you ask this question, you might be surprised at what comes up, right? You can also make a prayer, like write a prayer to the universe, or to your, if you have a spiritual teacher or a chosen deity, actually ask for assistance in discovering the next step for you, the next landscape that's waiting to unfold for you. And also in the asking, it's great to also give yourself permission to explore what might need to shift to allow for the next stage of your evolution in yoga. So a plateau can also be an opportunity to examine expectations that you might have around how your practice should be, or how it used to be, how you think it needs to be. And, you know, it can be easy to fall into a rut of a routine that's maybe been prescribed to us by a teacher, or even a particular lineage. And so the plateau is really an opportunity to step back and say, how might this need to shift in order to really unfold the next level for me? And, you know, a couple ways, I mean, some of you are already doing this, right? Because in our program, there is a wide variety of practice, right? Also, there's just one part. So you get to experience different practices like guided visualization, meditation, breath work, journaling, that you may not have done so much before, or have, you know, even thought about as part of your yoga practice. So you get to expand your idea of what yoga practice is, and you can see, has, you know, if one of those has been more interesting for you, or kind of calls for you, like, yeah, this would be really helpful for me right now. So giving yourself permission to explore possibly different forms of practice or different teachers, and and then I also want to say about the teachings themselves. I mean, in my small group retreat this summer, we are going to go deeper into approaches to asana practice that may be new for you and more refined, kind of take that to a deeper level. But it's also the yoga tradition, the wisdom teachings of yoga are incredibly rich and varied. And so in the retreat, we're also going to be going deeper into some new concepts and notions that you may not have worked a lot with before, and that can, again, open up a whole other dimension to your practice. So following what sparks your interest in terms of practices, in terms of teaching, to see if something new or different is alive or inspiring for you, is really powerful. And then once you start asking those questions, be open to signs from the universe about what your next opening might be. Look for it, right? See what's out there. See how the universe responds to you. Okay, so asking questions and opening to new forms of yoga. And then step number 5, this is really important. Consciously cultivate enthusiasm. Okay, so I want to talk about what this means, because this is really important. So did you know that the word enthusiasm comes from a Greek word meaning to carry God within oneself? To actually get in touch with that divine spark within ourselves is a natural form of enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is a quality. So here's the important thing. We can imagine how enthusiasm is very important for us in yoga. Sometimes what we don't recognize about enthusiasm is that it's a quality that we actually need to bring to our practice, and rather than expect to receive from it. And this is especially true over time. So no one is going to give us enthusiasm for our practice. Yoga will not give us enthusiasm for our practice. It is up to us to take responsibility for our practice. And so many of you have shared that your reason for joining the online program is because your practice is feeling uninspired or has completely gone out the window, or your practice sucks, or you're just not feeling it, right? And so it is up to you to be proactive in seeking out what's next. We can't expect the practice to do it for us. So again, scheduling time to reflect on this, scheduling time for a workshop or retreat, taking time out of your daily schedule, whether it's to engage with teachings online or in person, or extended time retreat, for example. Taking the time out of your daily schedule is a really important way of regaining and renewing enthusiasm for practice, which then will again allow you to, I believe, you turn the corner on the highway and unfold this deeper landscape, or more breathtaking landscape. Great. So hi, Wendy. Hi, Jean-Francois. Hi, Mona. Nice to have you. Okay, so number 5, take responsibility for your practice, consciously cultivate enthusiasm. And then number 6 is to take the support of a community of like-minded yogis. So one of the most important things to understand about yoga, I believe, is that the Sangha, the community, is really one of the pillars of the practice right from the beginning. We are actually not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to traverse the plateau alone. We need, and I believe we deserve, to have the support of others on our journey, people who are walking the same path. We're all at different places, right? I see us kind of walking this path, kind of all at different places, but it's the same path. And so it doesn't matter if we're all in different places, because we're on the same trail, right? And this, having the support of a community really makes yoga sadhana, the practices we do, so much sweeter, so much more fulfilling, and so much more fun, right? And that has certainly been my experience in this program. We have, a bunch of teachers from around the world and we're in this community together, and we're sharing, and it's just so fun for me, right, to not just read and engage with you in that, but actually offer you, what I know and what I love and what I've learned from my experience. And it is especially important to have this while you're going through these plateaus. So some of you have in-person communities, some of you have yoga buddies, like I know Danette and Tracy were practicing together this weekend. That's awesome. And it is really essential to have this. So it's not just a luxury, right? It's not just something that's a good idea in yoga. Community is actually meant to be part of the practice. And I think it's an essential part of getting through these plateaus and unfolding a more beautiful, breathtaking landscape for our practice. So those are the 6 steps. I'll review them now for you. So first, accept that plateaus are a natural and even expected part of your yoga journey, and healthy. Secondly, recognize the possibility in the plateau as a threshold for unfolding a new level of expansion and fulfillment and integration in your yoga practice. 3, refresh your highest intentions for the practice. 4, ask questions. Be open to signs from the universe. See what you're drawn to. 5, consciously cultivate enthusiasm. Take responsibility. Be proactive in seeking out opportunities to refresh and renew your commitment. And number 6, take the support of a community of like-minded yogis. So again, I believe that plateaus are important because they help us develop the tenacity, the fortitude, the perseverance that we want to keep running, to gain the longevity in practice that we deserve and that we want. And I believe the plateau period consistently for me, in my experience, has unfolded something even more profound, even more powerful, even more expansive and perfect than I ever could have imagined when I was in it. And so there you go. It is such a pleasure and honor to offer you this and to serve you. So please let me know if you have any questions at all. Bye-bye.